Okay, we had a shaila yesterday whether a master is able to tell his servants, his eved, his slave, to go ahead and work for him without giving him food. So we will push the shaila from a case of Rabbi Yochanan, where someone cut off his friend's eved's arm. He cut off his arm. The halacha was that the sheves, the disability, and the doctor bills go to the master, and the eved has to go ahead and be sustained from tzedakah. So the fact that the master is getting the money, it shows that he can tell his eved, work for me, because he's getting the money that he would have made had he worked. And the fact that the eved has to go and be sustained from tzedakah is a raya that the master does not have to feed the eved. So two components to go ahead and explain that in. And that's how we let Shmami know. That's how we knew that, and we came to the conclusion that Yachal is able to say, "Asay mi ve'eni zancha," work for me and I won't pay you. So we're starting from, I cut it a bit short yesterday. I shouldn't have Yud Beis Amid Beis Amamar. Amamar. I believe we did this yesterday again. Amamar, going back over to explain a component of the brisa, right? What's the component of the brisa? Noishin shiftoi v'rufasoi l'rabbi. The sheves and the refuah goes to the master, and says the Gemara shiftoi pshita. Of course, it goes to the master. Who else is going to go to the disability? So refuah says tzricha, right? There's no chiddush in sheves. The chiddush is in refuah. Says the Gemara refuah sedidehi. The boy is stubei. How can the refuah, the money for the doctor bills go to the master? After all, we have to pay off the doctor. So says the Gemara, they evaluated that the eved could have been fixed in 5 days. In other words, what the medicine he gave him was for 5 days. And in other words, he needed 5 days recovery. However, the doctor gave him some type of medicine, some type of drug that he was able to get better in 3 days. The itzi betilsi yomis, and there's 2 days. So there's 2 days of money there. In other words, the eved underwent more tsar to be recovered, to go ahead and recover in 3 days rather than 5 days. Kamash malon that the money goes to what? To the master. It doesn't go to the eved. Okay, that's the end of that sugya, and we pass in that that Yachal, according to Rabbi Yochanan, and we pass Rabbi Yochanan, Yachal, a person can say to his eved, "I say me, work for me, ve'eni zonchan, I don't have to feed you." Now, in the Mishnah, we had a machlokes. Let's have to go back to the Mishnah now, guys. It's been a few days, it seems. The Mishnah on Yud Aleph Amud Beis. Ha'omer tein get zela ishti, give this get to my wife. Ushtar shichwa zela avdi, and the shtar shichwa to my eved. Im ratzal achzor b'shneim yachzor. Div Reb Meir. Said Reb Meir, it's a choy for both. Let's only focus on the eved. It's a choy for the eved to go free, which is, again, you would think is not the normal. You would think that it's not a choy, but you would think that it's good for the eved to go free. So the isha, we know it's a choy, right? But the eved, says Reb Meir, is also a choy. The chachamim ma'imim b'kitei nashim, it's a choy. Avaloi b'shichroi avodim, and therefore, what's the halacha? In other words, we spoke out, as soon as the shliach received the get, all for all intents and purposes, he was made a shliach for the eved, made a shliach for the eved, and now there's no retracting. So therefore, the adon, the master, cannot retract and free what? And free the eved. Why? Because already it's too late. Zachin. Now there's a conversation that takes place at the end that's very cryptic in nature. And that's what the Gemara is going to focus on this evening, to go ahead and figure out this exactly what it means, the end of this conversation. Now, why would it be, what's the schus over here in the Chayiv? If this is Reb Meir speaking, if a man desires not to feed his eved, which is the sugya we just did, right? If a man desires not to feed his eved, then what? He has Rishus to do that. However, it's one of the Tanaim, the Ksubi, he's got to feed his wife, right? He's got to feed his wife. So Memela, for the eved to go free is a chayiv. It's not a chayiv. For the eved to go free is nothing. There's nothing gained by going free, right? There's not. Again, he didn't have to feed him. And now So it's not a chayv for him to go free. He was in a bad way anyway, because the guy can go ahead and say, I don't have to feed you. So it's a schus to go free. In other words, if he was going to be sustained, he'll not have to worry about his basic sustenance. It'll be a chayv to go free. Since what? The master basically can tell him, go to work, and I won't pay you anyway. In that case, so therefore what? It's not a chayv. Therefore it's a schus to go free. That's the, excuse me, I said the words of Rabbi, it's the words of the Chachamim. No, it says Rabbi, Rabbi reported to the Chachamim, who poiseles avlim in a truma. Kishem shu poiseles ishtai. But what happens? Good. He doesn't have to feed him. But if he was the eved of a kohen, he no longer could eat truma. So it would be a choy for him to what? No longer be able to eat truma. So it's mashma Rameya. I hear what you're telling me about mezainis, but if he's the eved of a kohen, no longer can eat truma. So what? I'm alive. They should kinyanai. I'm saying because he's what? The kinyan. So we have to understand what exactly the dialogue over here. We start off with mezainis, we go to truma, and we end off with kinyan. Right? What exactly is that pecking order, and what exactly are you speaking about? Says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Laza, Amarnu loy l'Reb we said to Reb Meir. So Rabbi Laza was part of the Chachamim, and it's Amarnu loy l'Meir. It's interesting. L'Meir, Rashi says, because they were Chaveirim, so they didn't call him Rebbe Meir. Why do you say that the owner can have charata? It's a schus. And even though the Eved did not appoint this person as a shliach, midin schia, he's zeicha for the Eved. So Amrulanu, he told us, chayv hulai. It's a chayv. Why? Shem haya Eved kayin, paislam in that truma. Good. Amarnulai, v'leima'im yetzel shalei lazaynai, ushlei nefarnasai, rishai. So Remeya was addressing truma, and they said, but what happens if they don't want to feed him? They don't have to. Alanu umailu Eved kayin shebarach. What happens if it was an Eved Kohen that ran away? The Isha Kohen Shamarda, or a woman who was married to a Kohen ran away. They would eat Truma. So what was that conversation right there? They went ahead and said that if he doesn't want to be Mefarnasim, he doesn't have to. And now Reb Meir jumps and says, but what happens if they run away, can't eat Truma? You're missing something. It doesn't flow. Okay, we'll see in a second. Okay, now my karmalei and my karmahadlei. What exactly is the conversation over here? Says Rashi. Guys, Rashi, let's take a look at Rashi. My karmalei and my karmahadlei. Shuva sheshivam, the answer that they retorted to, that Rameh retorted to them, Uma Eved Koyin Shebarach, Mat Shuvahi Lamasha Amru Loyal Messinis. They said that what? That if the Eved doesn't have to feed him, that the master doesn't have to feed the Eved. And he says, what happens if the Eved runs away? That Truma. What was the conversation there? Back in the Gemara. So exactly, again, the conversation didn't flow. It didn't make any sense. He's speaking about Messinis, and he jumps, Rameh jumps to what Truma. So my Amrulay and my Kamahadalu. Okay, come on. 3 lines from the bottom. Heshivasuni al mezainos. You answered me al mezainos, right? That in other words, that it's definitely understand a reason why he should be able to go free. Rabbi Meir says to the Chachamim, you dealt with mezainos. What does that mean? You dealt with mezainos? I understand there's no milah of him staying under the jurisdiction of the Adon. After all, the Adon doesn't have to feed him. So I understand that. But what about Truma? What about Truma? Rameya wants to know, but answer, what are you going to say about Truma? What are you going to say about Truma? So, Heshivasuni al Mizainis, yes, Mishonis, Mahatishivuni al Truma. Now, but who continues to talk, and Rameya continues this talk, the Chisamru, Ibari Zarek Legita, Upasale, if he wants, he could throw a get and passel him. In other words, he can put him in no man's land. We had a case in Masechta, you throw a get to an Isha, Suffolk Kair law, Suffolk Kair law. It's a Suffolk, it's in her jurisdiction and his jurisdiction. You're in no man's land. If he would do that to the Eved won't be able to eat Truma, correct? In other words, and if you're going to answer me that it's still a schus to go free, because if the master wants, he can go ahead and place the Eved in no man's land, and then he won't be able to eat what? Not only mezainas, he won't be able to eat Truma also. So in that, I'll answer you that Shavik lay, the Eved can run away, for Orik can get up, for Azal Alma, right? And therefore, Uma ilu Eved Koyin, Sheborach, the Ashes Koyin Shemorda al Baila, Haloi Oichlin Betruma, right? Vizeh Eina Oichel, and this person, what? Now he won't be able to eat if he goes free. So, in other words, I understand why to stay in his jurisdiction and be eaten, that's not there. He can go ahead, make me work without. But if I'm his Eved and I can eat Truma, and there's no way in the world l'chayra he can stop me from eating Truma. What are you going to tell me? That he can throw something close to me, and therefore what? He'll possibly put me in no man's land? He could run away. And he'll still be able to eat Truma, because you're not able to put him in no man's land. So therefore, Rav Meir retorted to the Chachamim, it's still a chayv to go free. Why? Because no longer will be able to eat Truma. And it's you, and again, he would be able to eat Truma. Let's say he's in Evra Yarden. Guys, Truma was dirt cheap. It was the supply was tremendous, and the amount of Eichlin were few. So let's say he would go ahead and prove that he is the Eved of a Kayin. No matter where he is, he'd be able to eat Truma. So in other words, therefore, if you wouldn't free him, you would be taking away that what? Schus, and Memela in Chavin Ela B'fanav, and therefore the master cannot have charata. The master, could have charata according to Rabbi. So this whole conversation, it still doesn't flow greatly, but that seems to be the conversation. There were two components being addressed: Mizainos and Truma. So Reb Meir says, I'm moided to you in your Truma that there is a chayv. There's no chayv staying around. It's a chus to get free. Why? He doesn't have to feed him anyway. But nonetheless, be moided to me, it's a chayv for the Eved to go free, because in all intents and purposes, you're stopping him from eating Truma. Why did they answer? Mifnei shu kinyanai. Good. So let's say the Eved would run away. What could the master do? He could sell him to a Yid, a regular Yisrael, and then what would it then be? He wasn't able to Truma. So therefore, it's a chayv even in Yinwat. They wanted to say that it's not a chayv even in Truma, because he can get out of that just as easily as just to feed him. He won't have to give him Truma either. So that's the conversation. So l'chayra shapik ha'amalahu. L'chayra Rav Meir said very good to them. Shapik ha'amalahu, guys. Rav Meir said very good to them that l'chayra, he by going free, he won't be able to eat Truma. So therefore, it's a chayv to go free, and therefore, if the other has charata, it's a good charata. Amarava hainu dekama haji leimas nisan. That's what the Mishnah means when it goes back and says if neshu kinyanoi, because he is his property. The iboy, if he wants shakal arba zuzim Yisrael, the Adon can take 4 zuz from Yisrael, upasale, and he can pass meaning Truma kolechad yisrael wherever he is. Good. So in other words, now you have understanding the dialogue in the Mishnah. What did the Chacham? In other words, there's a lot of information missing in the Mishnah that we're filling in the Brisa. A lot of it. Go back to the Mishnah, guys. Go back to the Mishnah. Now I'll fill it in. So we have machlokes. What's the halacha by freeing an Eved? Says Reb Meir, it's a chayv. Says the Chachamim, it's a schus. So says Reb Meir to the Chachamim, Shem Yer. Elefan of Shem Yetzes Lazanes Avdei Rishai, says the Lazanes Ein Rishai. So the Chacham say to Reb Meir, it's a chayv. Why? It's a schus to go free, because either way he can't eat. Amru lehem vari hu poiseles avdei min truma. So he said to them, by freeing him, you're passing him from truma. Kishem shu poiseles ishtay, and you're telling the ishtay what you can't change your mind. So Amru loy, they told him what mefeshu kinyanai. Meaning, you answered me well about mizainis. I agree. Regarding mizainis, it's a schus to go free, because he doesn't have to go ahead and feed him anyway. But you're going to pass him from truma, guys, right? You're going to pass him from truma. So what are you going to say to that? And you know what I could say to that? If they should kinyanai, I could sell you just as easily. The mela to go free is a schus. Mela to go free is a schus. Let's go back in the Mishnah, back in the Gemara. Let's finish up. Now, what would Reb Meir say to that, guys? Why would Reb Meir say that? L'chayra, you can sell him, right? So why would he say to that? L'chayra, I guess that was the end of the conversation, you know? Guys, outside. Guys, that's it. Like this. According to this conversation, what Eved are we speaking about? Only an Eved that was owned by a Kohen. By freeing him, he no longer will be able to eat Truma. What about an Eved that's owned by a Jew? When our Mishnah went ahead and said, like Reb Meir, that you can't have charot, that you could change your mind, it's not going only on what? An Eved that was bought by a Kohen. It's speaking about every Eved. But the whole dialogue was what? He's going to lose the right to eat Truma. If he's owned by a Yisrael, he never eats Truma. And nonetheless, Reb Meir said a carte blanche din across the board that any Eved, the other can go back and change his mind. Correct? Good. So says the Gemara, Teina ul Reb Meir teinach Eved kohen. Eved Yisrael ma'ikol meima. What are you going to say about Eved Yisrael? So Reb Shmuel says, Reb Shmuel by Yitzchak, if they shemafsidoi mishpachas kananis, because he's losing the ability to marry a shifcha kananis. Mafsidoi mishifcha kananis. He's going to lose. Only an Eved can marry a shifcha kananis. If he's a Yid, he's freed. He's a Yid, he can't marry. Adarabba, harihu matiru baschayrin. Now he can marry a Jewish girl. Says no. Oh, avda the hefkera nichale. An Eved is good in the state of hefkeris, zilale, shchichale, pritzale. In other words, there's a certain amount of frivolity and looseness and pritzos that exists in the realm of avdus that doesn't exist in the world of the kedusha of a Jew. You would be going against the Remeya. You would be taking him out of that world, that physical world that he enjoys all the excitement that it provides, and putting him in a world of kedusha, because that's a chay for the Eved. Eved zilale shichle pritzale. He's happy in that world, and he's happy there. So that would be. So it comes out there's two chayv by a regular Eved to a kohen who would be the loss of truma, and now you have one that's l'chayra on everything. This last teretz would even answer up the first teretz, right? It would even say that you don't even need that's fur anymore. There we were just learning the dialogue in the Mishnah, right? But now we're once you came up to this teretz of zilish shichlei pritzlei, it doesn't make a difference whether it's the Eved of Yisrael, the Eved of a kohen, right? He's happy in that world, therefore it would be a chayiv according to. And like the chachamim, nonetheless, it would be better to leave that world and what and like the chachamim. How the chachamim shot. Now, guys, like the chachamim, it's a why would he want to live in that world? You know why would he want to go into the Jewish world, right? So if you look at Taisvis, the second Taisvis on the page. The Yesh Leimar, the Moed Rabbanan, go down that 7 lines to the beginning Taisvis. The Moed Rabbanan, the Nichle Befkeira, Ela Hacha, Gabi Eved Leslahu. By Eved, you don't have that svara. The Fishu Meshubid v'Rishus Acher Malav. In other words, the Eved, he's his time. He has to listen to the whatever the owner wants. He's subject to the desires of his owner, and so therefore he can't indulge as much as he wants to. The God who like is shel shikra mishal afkeira, and therefore it's better the schus of being a free person than afkeira. Aval ger shein rishus acherim olav loy. By ger in nachanami, as in the state of being a ger, we say zile shichle pritzlei of being a guy. Okay, so therefore the chachamim would say it's better because since they don't totally enjoy the world of frivolity and hefkeris because of the fact there is a adon over here. Therefore, what it would be better to be free than live in that world. The next Mishnah is very, very dear to me. It was the first Mishnah that I ever really learned in my life. If someone says to his a shliach, give this get to my wife, give this shtar shikra, the shtar of freedom to my eved, umes, and he dies, lo yitnul achamisa. You don't give it after misa. However, if he says tenu mana liish plani, give this money, this $100 to each plani, umes, and then he dies, yitnul achamisa. Now, I'd like for you to look back at 1 second at Mishnah Yud Aleph on the base. Tain gets zedle ishti. Here it does say tenu. Here it says tain. Right? You see it? Good difference. Back by us says Rashi. Tenu gets zedle ishti. Garsinan b'masnisan. V'loy garsinan tain. And don't be goyrus give. Shalei masran liyad shliach b'chayav. He didn't give it to the shliach in his lifetime. The fikach leinechel hu chachamim b'dava. The chachamim don't argue saying shemishori shoina zachalai hashliach le'eved lias mishuchra. There's a big kasha over here, guys. Outside, guys, look at me. Outside, look at me. What happens? What happens in the case of the machlokes in the chacham Reb Meir? A guy says, "Give a get to my wife," and he changes his mind. What's the din? Everyone agrees. It's a chayv. You could change your mind. What happens by an eved? If he says, "What a chacham hold," it's a schus. So therefore, what? You can't change your mind, correct? So as soon as he says that, what mechanically happens? The shliach he gives it to automatically becomes the shliach Kabbalah of the eved, because he's even though the eved did not make him into what a shliach, the din of schia does make him to a shliach, correct? Right. So is he free then? I'm asking you, is he free then? He should be. And therefore, why in our mission over here does it say that he's not free? Because ein get lachamisa. L'chayra, he was free as soon as what? He changed his mind. In other words, once he gives it over, automatically we say the shliach is what? The shliach Kabbalah of the one. Okay, so for that reason, guys, Rashi was bothered and said, it says what? Tenu rather than tain. Tenu means he didn't give it over to him. He said there's a get. Yeah. He didn't say tain meaning he gave it over to him. Masran liyadai. Tenu means give this get, but not that he physically gave it to him. And therefore, since he physically gave it to him, the eved, the shliach was not zoicha for the eved, and therefore, if he dies, ain't get lachamisa. Again, there's a difference. You see Rashi again. You're touching it in your mind. Clearly, you see from Rashi that's not the case. Rashi says tenu does not. It does not mean. It does not mean. Obviously, it doesn't mean two people. He's not taking two people. It doesn't mean tenu that there's this get. Take it. That's what it means. But you see clearly from Rashi, Avi, he didn't say she'ein masum. He said tain would be you gave over, and tenu not. But you hear the lumdus of what's bothering Rashi, guys. You hear the lumdus of what's bothering Rashi. Okay, now the money's sitting on the table. The money's sitting. Well, we'll see in a second. Forget the money for a second. But the case of now the Rambam and the Rif says you could be Geras Tain. The Rif says you could be Geras Tain. So very geschmack. This is very dear to me. It's the first Mishnah that I ever learned anything about. Hesh, you said when I said, "Is he free?" and you said, "Apparently." There's another way to learn. Not that he's free. It's just that he's zoicha, that the master can't change his mind, but he won't be free until it gets to the eved physically. In other words, is it a one-step process or a two-step process? Rashi learns it's a one-step process. In other words, as soon as you give it to the get to the shliach, for all intents and purposes, he's free, and therefore lachamisa, he's already free already. But says the Rif, no, says the Rif. You know what it means to take kischi, that to the extent that the other can't change his mind. But einachinami, he wouldn't be free until when? Until he receives the get. By the time he receives the get, what? The guy's dead and get lachamisa. So you could be Geras, like the Rif and Rama, you could be Geras what? It could be Geras Tain. It goes into the lumdus of how do you view schia, guys? It goes into the lumdus exactly how you view schia. That's the Torah over here. Guys, geschmack? Geschmack. Okay. Now we're going to focus on the mana. We're going to focus on the mana. We're going to introduce you to a very interesting kinyan. Okay, so by mana you would give it after misa, right? By get you won't, but mana you would. So Amar Rav Yitzchak bar Shmuel bar Marta mishmei derav, v'hu shetziburin u'munachim b'keren zavias. What are we speaking about? This $100 is tied up. It's in a specific spot, and he says this money should be given to so and so. This money should be given to so and so. So I'm not sure Heshev on the table is that spot, but it's got to be a specific spot where this money is. Now, why do you need this? But my asking, what are we dealing with now? Ilema bibari. If you're dealing with a healthy person, kitziburin mayhava. If it's tied up, how does that help? Halei mashach. he didn't go ahead and make a kinyan on it. Why do you say that you can give the money after the Misa? Is because it already belongs to that individual. But if you didn't make a kinyan on it, why would it help it being tied up in a corner? Says Rashi, Bibari, matnas bari, if you're speaking about the matana of a healthy person, bimetaltlin, you can change your mind until an act of Mashiach or Masira or some type of act is done on a kinyan. And even the Yarish can change his mind. I'll leave it demand the less than mitzvah kind of yames. So let's say Ruvain says, give this $100 to Shimon, and Ruvain dies. Says Rav, if that money is lying in a corner, it's in a safety deposit box, you know exactly where it is, the money is given to Shimon even after Misa. And you can't change your mind, Mashma, right? You can't. Why? Fred the Gemara, why can't you change your mind? There was no kinyan. There was no kinyan over here. No. So Ruvain dies. Who's getting the money now? Ruvain's kids. Let Ruvain's kids change their mind. Bishlem, if you hold mitzvah kind divrei ames, very good. Tell me the kind of words of Ruvain. But like them on the Yama that there's no mitzvah kind divrei ames. Why do you say yesh mana lacha misa? If there was no kinyan, there was no kinyan. So that's by a healthy person. Now there's another type of person. So therefore, b'mayaskina ilay mebari hitzi burin when it's tied up my hava halay mashach didn't make a kinyan. The Ella, what's it speaking about? A guy's on his deathbed, and he already says, give this money to this person. So what do we say? Meaning what? The kinyan's a done deal. So Fred Gemara, you don't need a kinyan at all. So in other words, what does Siburin do? Siburin seems to go ahead and facilitate that it's a good kinyan. It seems to facilitate that this money now is given over because it was Siburin. Yeah, that's what it seems to say. Now, Meman of Shach, if he's a healthy guy, it shouldn't help Siburin. And if he's not a healthy guy, then you don't need Siburin. So what is exactly Rav's din? And Rav said the Mishnah is speaking, the shot in the Mishnah is speaking where the money is what? Is kind of tied up somewhere. Says the Gemara, La'olam bibari. So Rav Zvid, says Rav Zvid, La'olam bibari. Speaking about a healthy person. What's the kasha? It's a healthy person, then why does that have to be tied up? Rav Huna Amarav, Dam Rav Huna Amarav, Manali biyadcha. Here's $100 in my possession. Teneoli leploini b'maimid shlashtin. Give it over to so and so in the maimid of all three of them. Kana yakaina. Okay, guys, we just were introduced to a new kinyan. For those people who are sitting at home, maimid shlashtin. The maimid, the standing literally of all three. So let's go outside. As Hashem, and get to Masechta Kedushin, we're going to speak about kinyanim, acquiring things. There are ways to acquire metaltlin. There's ways to acquire karka. We know karka is kesef shtar chazaka, and we know metaltlin kesef's not kaina midrabana, right? Meshicha, mesira, hadba, chotzer, agaf. We have a whole slew of different ways. You've just been introduced to something called ma'imid shlashtin. What's ma'imid shlashtin? Ruvain owes Shimon money. Ruvain owes Shimon money, or Ruvain has something in his possession that belongs to Ruvain. Ruvain goes ahead, and it belongs to Shimon. Ruvain goes ahead, and Shimon goes ahead with Ruvain, and he brings Levi in. And he says, Ruvain, you know that $100 that I have, Tziburin, that's in that place that I entrusted you to watch. I want you to give to Levi. No kinyan was made. Automatically becomes Levi's. Right? Why? Because what's the mechanics? Since we know exactly where it is in the house of Ruvain, it's like considering there's just a Shimon, and therefore Shimon can go ahead and give it to what? To Levi. That's provided we know exactly where it is. So this apparently would be something that we know where it is. Now, what about money? Let's say it was a loan. Ruvain owes Shimon owes Ruvain $100, and Ruvain owes Shimon 100, and Shimon decides that he said, I owe you, Ruvain, and Ruvain says to Shimon, listen, you know that money, the $100 that you owe me, I want you to give it to Levi. Ma'imid shlashtin, all three are there. It doesn't work. Because since milva son, the purpose of money is to be out and taken, it's not there. It's not considered in his rishus. So ma'imid shlashtin is a kinyan that works, that midrabanan, right? So therefore, if you look at Rashi, the Maimit Shlosh and Kaina will come on Mefarish Taima with Siburim Beinin the Savra of Zavid like Amarav Kaina Ela Bikadin. It only works by Bikadin, but it won't work by Milva. Only by Bikadin. What does Siburim do? It makes it that you know where it is. Since I know where it is, and therefore I can give it over to somebody else, it's considered in my jurisdiction. So Rav Zavid just answered in the name of Rav Huna, in the name of Rav. Rav Zavid just answered in the name of Rav Huna, in the name of Rav, answered up Shitas Rav. Why does our Mishnah say that mana that you have in your hands? You should what? You should be kaina, and he dies, you give it after Misa. Why? Because it's speaking that it was Siburin. You're speaking that what? It was tied up someplace. And the three of them got together. The one whose jurisdiction it was in, the one who owned it, and the owner said, you know, that's in your rishus. I want that pikadon to go to another person. And since it's Siburim, we know where it is. Since that's where Maimit Shloshtim was stated, where it can go ahead then and be given to the other individual. However, if it was a halva that was owed, that he owes him to pay, you can't tell him to pay another individual because there's nothing there. Because any money is spent. There's a chiyuv. There's not money, you know. And even if you have the original $100, the same money you gave, it still would be lahit sadnin. You wouldn't say that's tziburim. Okay, that's Reb Zavid's teretz. It's speaking about a bari, and it's speaking about this new kinyan we've been introduced to called Maimit Shloshtim. Rav Papa Amar, Rav Papa disagrees with Reb Zavid. La'olam b'shchiv meira. Says Rav Papa was speaking about a shchiv meira, a person on his deathbed. Uchiidich the Rav. And it's amazing. Rav is coming to answer. Both Amarayim are using Rav to answer up Rav, right? Uchiidich Rav. The Amar Rav. Shchiv meira shama tenu mana leploni minachasai. Give a mana to ploni from minachasim. Mana is if you said this mana, nicenin. Mana stam. If you said a mana, a nicenin. Because chashina shema mana kvar kama. Maybe he meant some money that was bagrubin that was hidden somewhere else. Ve'ilchasa the kfura like chashina. The halacha is not we're not chayish the kfura. So like Rav Papa, and according to Rav, a shchiv meirak, if he would go ahead and say through mana ploini from minchasai, you would give it over. So Rav Zavid said a shchiv meirak b'maimit shloshtin. Rav Papa said a bari, and he said mana zeh. So now Rav Papa said shchiv meirak my time alayom Rav Zavid. Why do you like about the Maimit Shloshtin Amid Beis? Savra Papa Ki Amarav Loishna Milva V'Loishna B'Bikadin. Rav said there's no difference between Milva and no difference between B'Bikadin. So in other words, guys, you hear? We know one thing. When it said mana in the Mishnah, what did Rav say? Where's that mana? It is Tziburim. Where does Tziburim make a chilik? By B'Bikadin or by Milva? By B'Bikadin. But if you hold that Maimit Shloshtim works by Milva and Pikadin, obviously you can't give that teretz, because then you won't need Tziburin, because mana, a Milva can't be Tziburin. Again, we're answering up Pshat in the Mishnah according to Rav. We're answering up Pshat in the Mishnah according to Rav that the object has to be Tziburin. And we said, so Bishleim, if you hold Maimit Shloshtin, works only by Bikadin, we understand why it's Tziburin, because the Bikadin is Tziburin. It's considered a unique, it's in the garage, it's under the bed, it's a certain place. But if you hold that, Maimit Shloshtin even works by a halva, that would not explain why Rav would say Tziburin in that Mishnah, and he did. So therefore, Rav Papa said, since Rav Papa hold that Maimit Shloshtim works by halva, he couldn't give Rav Zavid's teretz. He had to come out to a different teretz. What's the difference teretz? The shchiv meira that said manazeh. Rav Zavid might tell Rav. Why didn't Rav Zavid like Rav Papa? Excuse me, Rav Zavid might tell Rav Papa. What did he like about Rav Papa's pshat that it's speaking about what? A shchiv meira. It says more let me talk masni some shchiv meira. The Mishnah is not. You can't say in the Mishnah shchiv meira. How do you know that? Midiktani ha'omet who gets sel ishti. That's the number one. The reason you don't give the get, the mace, that he died. Ha-mechayim, noisnin. Mechayim, you would give it. Now, what lashon did he say to give it, guys? Guys, outside, what did he say? He said tenu. What happens if he wouldn't have said tenu? Would you have given it mechayim? No. The reason you give it mechayim is because he said tenu. What about shchiv meira? You don't have to say tenu. So therefore, that Mishnah can be speaking about a Shchiv Meirah. There was a Akpod in a Mishnah of Tenu. Tenu is not a term that is used by a Shchiv Meirah, because you don't have to say Tenu. Beautiful diak. Says the Gemara. You want to know, right? Rav Zavid like Rav Papa's pshat, because our Mishnah said the following: the reason you're not giving it because the guy's dead. If he wouldn't be dead, you'd give it. Kaima, did you give it when he's alive? Dama Tenu. Halayama Tenu. But if he didn't say Tenu, ain't nice, then you wouldn't give it. Ushchiv Meirah afagav loyama Tenu. A Shchiv Meirah, even though he did not say Tenu, nice, then you would give it. So in other words, if a Shchiv Meirah said Yichtavu get Zela Ishti, you'd give it also. Yichtavu get Zela Ishti by Shchiv Meirah, you'd give it. Why? Because he's so far blunted, he's so fatracht in his disease, he forgot to say Tenu. But he meant, obviously, to write it, he didn't need it to use as a bottle stopper. He wanted to give it, correct? So when our Mishnah was makbid in Tenu, obviously he can't be speaking about a Shchiv Meirah, because the Shchiv Meirah does not have to say Tenu. He does not have to say give it. Says the Gemara. Where do you see that? That none. Barishayna initially, they said the following: Hayetza b'koilar, someone who's being taken out and changed to be killed, usually by the malchus. V'yomni says the following: Kisu get liishti, write a get for my wife. He doesn't want his wife falling to Yibum, guys. He doesn't want. He's going to be dead. He'd rather be a gerusha than an almana. He'd rather be a gerusha than an almana. He doesn't want to fall into Yibum. Good. Hari elu yechlu v'yitnu. Now, what didn't he say? He didn't say tenu. Why do we write it and give it? Why? Because we figure he's got other things on his mind. Someone goes, takes a business trip in a boat, or in the desert, which were dangerous at the time. Even a Shchiv Meirah, who would say what? Kisvu, you'd give it, even though he didn't say Tenu. So said Rav Zvid, I don't like Rav Papa's pshat that it's speaking about a Shchiv Meirah, because the Lashon of Tenu tells me it's not speaking about a Shchiv Meirah. Therefore, I'll say it's speaking about a Bari b'Maimet Shloshnim. So each one had its fallacies. Rav Papa didn't like Rav Zvid because Maimet Shloshnim would be limiting to a Pikadon because of the din of Tziburin, and Rav Papa and Rav Zvid didn't like Rav Papa that Shchiv Meirah because the Lashon Tenu would be even if it's Shchiv Meirah, you would not have to say Tenu. Very geschmack. Says the Gemara, Maskul Rav Ashi, Uman name on the Maslis of Shimon Zuri. How do we have other people? Only Rav Shimon Zuri said Shchiv Meirah has to say what? Doesn't have to say Tenu. But other people said he would have to say Tenu, and therefore Rav Papa could be very, very correct. Okay. You know what? I think we're going to stop over here because it's the kasha and the teretz goes to what? To the middle of the other amid. So we'll stop a little early today. Thank you.